I got a DM recently that inspired this entire video, and it's from this lovely girl named Alexis Sierra, and she goes, is there a possibility you can give me a few tips to use my new digital camera, or Canon T6 Rebel, I'm assuming. And she goes, I want to begin to tap into my camera to get the pictures I see in my mind into my camera, or maybe just onto Instagram, because hey, that's what we do it for. And it made me think that, you know, Alexis, that's a great idea, because I'm gonna make this video for my past self when I first started photography. I'm gonna make this for you, Alexis. I'm gonna make it to other photographers who might look at any other big photographer and be like, how do I get there? And where do I start? And so I think the only proper way to start this is by taking you to where I started it all. Because you see, when I first started photography, I didn't have much. I literally had almost the same thing you had. I had a Canon T5i Rebel, and I had a prime lens. I started just like this, a photographer outside shooting in natural light, shooting outdoors. I was not always in the studio. That came later in my progression as a photographer. I highly encourage you, just get outside, find someone to collab with, a friend, a model from Instagram, and just start shooting. You have to learn by trial and error, but you know, I didn't shoot on rooftops when I started. I just wanted to come up here because it looked really cool for this shot. But let's go downstairs, maybe to the sidewalk, the streets where I actually did start shooting.
There's a distance growing, and I feel it every day.
Okay, this is a little more realistic. It actually started really similar. What the? Why is there a stiletto? Anyways, it started just like this, not on the rooftop, but on the streets, hitting the streets, just working with whoever I could. And I would literally walk down the sidewalks, walk down the city streets, learning my camera, what the settings did. I would experimenting with like a new setting every time I would shoot, different f-stops, different shutter speeds. I was definitely shooting on manual, which is something you have to do. It's not just that, you have to learn your camera so it becomes a part of you. And that's what's really important, is to unlocking here and translating into your camera. But not just that, but learning light, the way the light falls on my face. What side of the sidewalk is it coming on? Is this sidewalk more lit than that sidewalk? Am I under the shade of a building? Am I in direct sunlight? What time of day it is? So my next tip of advice is going to be, well, you better be shooting in manual, and well, shoot outside. Start on the streets, learn light, because ultimately, as a photographer, it's becoming a master of light. Not so much taking pictures, it's learning how light works. Does that make sense? I don't know, I hope that makes sense. How can I better illustrate this? On a rainy day like this, the lighting is almost perfect. There's really no harsh shadows. But not just that, you start to look at the environment around you, the city, the streets, as backdrops, as sets, and you just have to go outside and do, like I said, you just have to keep doing. Like for instance, you might not think this garbage or this awning behind me, well, you can't see that part. You might not think this garbage looks cool, but when you see the angle, all of a sudden it transforms how you start to view shapes and lines. And so the city and natural light and being outdoors and shooting is a great teacher of that. And remember, you're probably going to fail a few times. You're going to have a shoot that went wrong. You're gonna miss the perfect frame. As a matter of fact, that's like the golden rule of photography, and that's the perfect frame is usually a little messed up. The perfect movement, you were focusing on the background and not her. And it's okay, there's gonna be setbacks, there's always gonna be better shoots, but look at your work and examine it. Ask yourself, what could I have done better? What do I see here? What am I not getting out of this? And then maybe do some research, ask other people, but really, it's all about learning and doing. You don't get the biggest biceps by thinking about getting big biceps. You get big biceps by going to the gym and flexing every day and hitting those buys and forgetting about your legs. Except in photography, don't forget about your legs, because hitting lunges is very crucial to getting the perfect shot. I like hitting the lunge over here. Whew. And here I am now, back in the studio. It's very far from shooting on the streets with someone you met on Instagram. This is a lot more controlled. I'm only here because I wanted more control of my life. I wanted more control of the set, of everything else. And I only got here by spending countless hours and days hitting the streets and learning light enough to where I said I want to shape it in the way I want to. But, you know, I digress. It's not about what you have. It's about what you do. There's great photographers who don't even have a studio or never will have one, and they're shooting for some of the best magazines. But let me just wrap this up, and so let's go back to my desk so I can just sort of give you this in actually more bite-sized pieces of information. So let's take this full circle, and to answer your question, Alexis Sierra, it's going to be this. Here's just a couple bullet points that I probably could have just said in the beginning to make this video a whole lot shorter, but whatever, I'm extra. And it's gonna be this. You need to start shooting in manual mode. That is the only setting you want. You see this? You see this right here? This is where you live. You don't live here. You don't live here. You definitely don't live here. You live here. Forever and always, this is the only setting you need on your camera. And I promise you, you will learn everything you want. And now that you're shooting in manual mode all the time, this is what I would recommend. Just from the beginning, use whatever digital camera you got and start using a prime lens. A prime lens is a lens that doesn't zoom. So I would recommend maybe a 50mm, that's what I started with, and you can get one from Best Buy for like 120 bucks. Or if you're a real hustler, you can just go to Craigslist and find a nicer lens for half the price. But anyways, use a prime lens and shoot on manual. Those are the two biggest things that are gonna get you going, because using a non-zoom lens forces you to move your body and to put yourself in the position of the composition that you wanna see. So photography is not just, you know, backdrop and lighting, it's also learning composition, and a prime lens will help you do that. And so my next thing I'm going to say, besides manual with a prime lens, is going to be, you have to look at light, Alexis, and anyone else out there, past Bruce, even new photographers. You have to look at light, become an observer of light, a student of light. Observe light in the morning, midday, at night, dusk, dawn, golden hour, blue hour. You know, shoot in all of these scenarios and figure out what works for you. I promise you, you're going to discover things that you would never have thought about or could have comprehended watching YouTube videos or, you know, looking at anyone's pictures on Instagram. So you just have to start becoming an observer of light, and maybe one day you can become a master of shaping light like Albert Watson. And the last thing I'm gonna say, besides, you know, the gear and the lighting, is it's so simple, and it's just doing. Like I said before, go out and do. Use photography as your escape. Use it for fun, use it to meet people, use it to meet bloggers. I literally once heard a photographer say he started doing photography very seriously because he knew that this camera and this way of capturing the world was his ticket to explore the world, and the guy literally ended up doing that. So, I mean, there's 1,000 inspiring things I could say, but just literally go do, figure out what you like, don't be scared to try new things with photography, and at the end of the day, you're gonna fail, but you're gonna learn from those failures. I've definitely failed a lot, so take that from me. But anyways, Alexis, new photographers, past Bruce, like I said, hope this helps at least a little bit, because I literally climbed on a rooftop to make this for you. Goodbye, I love you, I have a lot of editing to do, so I'll be gone. Peace out, fam. Later, fam. I probably should have mentioned this one. This one goes out to all you fellas, and it's don't be creepy. Don't be a creepy photographer, because you'll get really far, but not hitting on all the hot girls you shoot with. Pro tip.